Welcome to the video. In this video we'll be taking a look at this thing here. This is a Quanum i8 radio. It's an 8-channel radio. It uses AFHDS 2A, which is the automatic frequency hopping digital system, second generation, which was developed and patented by FlySky to talk to a little receiver that comes in the box. The really interesting thing about this is two things. First of all, it is very cheap and cheerful. It's less than 42 quid. Including a receiver, and the other thing that's interesting about it as well is that it actually comes available out the box to program and send up to 6 flight modes to whatever multi-rotor or whatever it is that you're using. So the reason that we're looking at this is that we get asked a lot about recommendations for cheap and cheerful radios, because all of us that are building quads aren't necessarily doing things with Tyrannuses or i10s or DX9s or whatever it is that you're using. Some of the subscribers on the channel are starting to get into remote control. They're looking to start as cheaply as possible, or we get an awful lot of subscribers that are building quadcopters for part of a thesis or a high school or college project as well, and they're looking for something that will work but that won't break the bank. So let's take a look at this one in the video and we'll see whether this is up to the job. Now this is one I've been playing with for a couple of weeks, and in the video we'll take it out of the box, we'll show you what you get for your money. Some really nice cute little features in here. So although it is definitely a budget radio, and we'll see that when we see the notchiness of some of the controls on here, it is quite cute in that it is full 8-channel. It has a couple of sliders, so if you wanted to set up things like simple gimbals or stuff on your models, you could control it with this little guy too. We'll also then plug it into a APM, and we'll look at it through Mission Planner and make sure that that 6 modes works with things like APM and Pixhawk. And then out of interest, I'd also like to plug it into a CC3D as well. Now we've done a series recently on the CC3D Revolution, which is a very capable GPS flight controller that can support up to 6 flight modes as well. So I'm wondering whether or not this will work with those flight controllers too, because if it runs with an APM, a Pixhawk, things like a PixRacer, CC3D and CC3D Revolution, then this presents quite a cute option for those people that are looking to build on a budget. So let's take it out of the box and I'll show you what you get. And you'll notice as we do the unboxing that you can already see that this guy is definitely built around a price point. The packaging is very simplistic. We obviously get a manual, that's very handy. It talks to you about how you reverse channels and things on here as well. We get a little bag of bits that has the USB cable in there that we need to connect, and also comes with a receiver with a bind plug and everything else. We'll look at that in a second. We get a little battery, which is actually the LiPo battery for the radio itself, and then inside this horrible plastic thing we actually get the radio. So the radio itself is very lightweight. There isn't a lot of kind of heft to it, but you wouldn't expect that with a budget radio. The main controls, you can swap them around, but this one's come by default in mode 2. Throttle, rudder, elevator, aileron. We have the trims for which are down here. On the shoulders we have 2 slidable controls. We have a 3-position switch, and then we also have a rotary selector for the 6 flight modes. To install the battery is a piece of cake. You just slide the battery tab off, line up the battery and pop it in, and there we go, we're ready. So if I turn it on, that's bind mode, and it'll come out of bind mode, and there we are. If I move the rotary knob, you can see the lights are coming on, and they even light up in a different colour to give you an idea which mode you're in. Now let's have a look at some of the other bits that you get in the pack. So in the actual packet of goodies, we get the USB cable. That's good to connect this up to PC for charging or whatever it is. It's one of those that has the little teeny weeny when the camera catches up. So that's how you charge the battery, which is good. The receiver itself, it's a Quanum IA8 2.4 gigahertz receiver. It does do PPM out as well, and in fact once we're going to connect this up to the CC3D, I'll actually use PPM. We have the bind plug, and the way you bind it to the radio is really straightforward. You just pop the bind plug into the PPM slot, power up the receiver, and then while it is flashing you then power up the radio, and then it will find the receiver and bind. So that's really straightforward. The other thing you get in the kit is you get some stickers, and the idea with these is that once you've set up the flight modes, that you can put these little stickers by the side of the actual light itself, so that it'll remind you which flight mode is which is a nice idea. So this is a radio that's really designed for one receiver at a time. This isn't the kind of thing you're going to want to buy and connect 5 or 6 models to, but if you are looking to build something that has an APM or a Pixhawk or CC3D or CC3D Revolution potentially, this is a way for very little money you can kind of get everything you need. So let's have a quick check and just see whether or not these 6 flight modes that's on here actually work as advertised. So let me jump onto the netbook. We'll look at Mission Planner first, and then we'll look at the CC3D. So we're in Mission Planner and connected to a little APM 3.1 that's connected up to the receiver for the Quanum i8 radio. We have channel 5 connected, which is the default channel for the mode settings, which is that one there. At the moment the switch is in position 1, it's sending a value of 1200. Don't worry about some of these other things moving around a little bit. I haven't completely wired everything up. What I'm interested in seeing, as we've said, is just seeing that as I move that knob on the top right hand corner of the radio, whether or not it's going to walk through each of the radio settings. So as I move it, you can see it starts off in position 1 is 1200, position 2 is 1300, position 3 is 1400, position 4 is 1500, position 5 is 1700, and then position 6 is 1800. So let me just put that back into first position for that knob, and let's just run in flight modes. Now nothing's set up on this board, but as I change that position on the i8, if this is configured properly, we should see it step through each of these settings. So these are the ranges that we should be seeing. So in position 1, absolutely flight mode 1 selected. Position 2 goes flight mode 2. Position 3 flight mode 3. Position 4 flight mode 4. Position 5, flight mode 5, and position 6 gets us flight mode 6. So it does actually correspond to all the APM bits and pieces. So this is great. It means that this radio for things like the APM, Pixhawk and Pixracer is a budget option that automatically has the ability to select any one of the 6 flight modes that we want to set up here. Great. Okay, now we know that. Let's just try it with something like Libra Pilot and a CC3D and see if we can get that same kind of functionality using a different flight controller. This time we're in Libra Pilot, and we've looked at this in a couple of series where we looked at things like the CC3D Revolution. We actually have it connected here to that little CC3D Atom from HobbyKing, and what I've done is I've configured and gone through all of the transmitter setup wizard stuff, so we can see the throttle moving and we can see all the other things moving too. What I have done as well is I've also gone into flight mode switch settings, and I've increased the number of flight modes from the default 3 to 6. Now that now means that we have the option to select any one of the flight modes in any of the 6 positions, and the trick is, have we actually got it so that it's going to work? Now at the moment the radio is in position 1, so for the flight mode, so I'm going to flick it to position 2, and there it's gone to position 2, wonderful. I'll flick it to position 3 on the radio, it's gone to flight mode 3, position 4, this is looking promising, position 5, great, and position 6. Fantastic. So not only can we use this radio for flight controls of various flight modes on things like APMs, Pixhawks and Pixracers, it'll also work on our CC3Ds and CC3D Revolutions too. So just to kind of prove it, there's that flight mode channel that we've configured, and as I move it back down from flight mode 6 to flight mode 5, flight mode 4, flight mode 3, flight mode 2 and flight mode 1, it isn't absolutely lining up with the middle of all of those, but it is working. That's great. And also the 2 sliders on the shoulder, if I move those around, you'll see accessory 2 moving as I move the right hand side one, and accessory 1 move as I move the left hand one, and then the switch A, you can see, is accessory 0. So that's that 3 position switch that you could use. So you could even use something like accessory 1 or accessory 2 here with those little sliders on the shoulders to control something like a gimbal or something else on the model. Fantastic. So let's go back to the bench and I'll give you my final thoughts. So in summary, what do I think about the radio? Well, I think in terms of bang for the buck, it's very good. It's absolutely not the same quality as you'd expect for a much more expensive radio, but you'd expect that because you're talking about something that's only 40 odd quid. It does do all the basics quite well. The gimbals are the kind of gimbals that actually feel reasonable. They're nice and smooth. They're not as silky as some of the other radios I've tried, but they actually feel very nice and they're very usable. The sliders on the top are very notchy. You'll hear as I move them around. And that doesn't feel great, but it does give you 2 options if you were setting up something like a gimbal. The 3 position switch is fine. It isn't particularly positive in terms of its locking positions, but it stays where it's put. The only thing you do have to be aware of is this little rotary knob here that actually selects your flight modes. I turn it on and then we'll whiz it round. Is that it is really, really stiff. Mine's got better the more that I've used it. What I would potentially do is kind of pop the back off the radio if you were getting one of these and just play with making sure that that is very well lubricated, and maybe ease the spring tension off slightly so that as you're moving it around it isn't quite as tricky. Because what I've found is that when you're actually using this to change your flight mode on the go, you have to take your finger off the elevator and aileron, which if you're in something like a self-level mode on a quadcopter isn't a disaster, but it does mean that you have to kind of take your fingers off here, and then you have to have 2 fingers and quite a significant bit of pressure. Now, I said that does get easier. I would definitely, if you get one of these, spend a bit of time loosening that up, because that in the middle of flying is can be distracting when you're trying to select a flight mode. The other hot tip I'd give you is the oh dear mode. I'd potentially add your GPS return to home as something on the 3 position switch rather than this one. In the event of a problem, you're probably not going to have a time to take your fingers off here and to click it through all the positions to get to the return to home position. I would probably set it up so that if something went wrong, I could hit that and that would initiate a GPS return to home or a land function or whatever it is you had on your model. So do consider this if you're building a project and you're looking to get 6 flight modes for a nice flight controller quite easily. Do remember this is a 1 radio, 1 receiver setup, and so long as you're aware that you're going to have to work on things like this knob being a little bit stiff, it's definitely something you should have a look at. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.